The wise words of an experienced campaigner there.
Somewhat experienced. Well, I suppose in NFT years, this is forever that I've been doing this now. But
yeah. I've been at this for 2.5 months, and it's felt like 9 years just for the Battle Royale collection. So to be coming at this since August, and I think you were building long before then as well, then it must feel like forever.
Yeah, it wasn't. I wouldn't say long before that, but that's probably accurate. Like since probably July, and then like started like no, even maybe June, but like actively pursuing like the entire kind of campaign. Like have things set up, getting near the end of like all the art being done. Well, not the end, but yeah. But I mean, even just being in the NFT space since I think I joined in March, like 8th of March or something, 2021. So it feels like it's been a lifetime since then.
So if you're new to us in the audience, because we've had lots of new collectors join the Weirdoverse in the last 24, 48 hours. The format of all these things is relatively clear. We've got today, which is our faction or origin stories, as we call them. We're into part 4 now, and what we've been doing is we've been catching up with our artist and founder, Ghostbreath, who's joining us on the stage. We delve into the background and origins, obviously, of each of the sub-factions that make up the cloning event, which is the Battle Royale collection on OpenSea and looks rare now, which feels surreal to say that we're actually out now in the world, and it's not a theoretical thing, but we're getting into the backstory so you can get a sense of what it is that you're about to receive in the reveal events on Saturday. So we've been talking about this for months, but the basic structure is that if you're joining us for the first time, you don't know who the weirdos are or what the Weirdoverse is. We're at a setting 200 years into the future with two sides preparing for battle, and their cloning machines have been fired up and producing a series of factions ready for war. And there's 7 factions on the weirdo side and 7 on the state side. And what we tend to do is we tend to pick one from each side and ideally pick up some contrasts and have some conversations around what brings them to the party, what their strengths are, what they're known for, and where their place really is in the entire Weirdoverse. So that's kind of today. Today's very art focused. It's very much on the narrative and the lore and the history and the story of the weirdos. When we talk about the wider project, we tend to do an all projects team AMA, and we'll do that usually on Mondays. This week was slightly different just because we had all our focus and energy on the collection launch for Tuesday and Wednesday this week. We've obviously got quite a busy week going into the weekend with the reveal on Saturday as well. So we'll be back on Saturday to do the shuffle, the randomized shuffle of the NFTs before you receive them. And then we'll get back into next week's scheduled events of the wider AMA structure that we're known for. And we'll do that on Twitter Spaces as well, so we can be broadcasting to the wider world and be just transparent with our progress and what we're talking about as we head into the future of what we're building here. So that's for Monday. Today, as I say, we're getting into the backstories. We tend to spend maybe 15 minutes on each sub-faction, and we'll give people a chance to ask general questions around the generative process, the art process, and that sort of thing. So if you'd like to take part, there's a couple of ways you can do that. You can either put your hand up in the stage that we're in right now, which is the bottom of your screen on desktop, or I think you've got to move around to find it on your phone. You put your hand up for show requests, and I bring you up to speak on the stage. Alternatively, we've got a channel called AMA Questions in the Discord. So if you drop into there, I will scan through that periodically as we're talking to Ghostbreath on the stage, and I'll pick out my favorite questions that I think are relevant to the conversation, and we'll build that into a cool chat to get into the collection. So today we have 2 factions. The Star Seeds, which was part of our announcement sneak peek earlier. So you might have seen all our faction logos in the announcements channel, which was a super exciting gift to drop. And then we've also got the droids. And I know for a fact that CryptoJack will be itching to hear more about the droids, because that is by far his favourite sub-faction. Certainly from previous AMAs, he's been lusting after love bots any opportunity he can speak to the world. So which one do you want to start with, Ghostbreath? It's on you. You flip a coin or you choose. It's up to you.
I would say we should maybe start with the star seeds.
Amazing, because I've got so many questions about the star seeds. So we're joining the weirdos here. The star seeds. I did 2 minutes of effective star seed research before jumping on the stage today, and I haven't heard of the phrase, but I sort of just looking at the previews and the sneak peeks, I thought they might be either fortune tellers or future seers, that sort of type of character. But just reading about it, apparently they're extraterrestrial origins by definition, and that sort of came into being around the 1970s as a phrase. Is that where you've picked things up? What's your sort of reason for choosing that name?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, and some of the people in the community that have been around for a while know, like I've got quite an interest in conspiracy and, you know, this type of, I don't know, just lore in our own world. So it's definitely kind of derived from that New Age movement. And I mean, the part of the core idea of the weirdos is that they were helped by an extraterrestrial race. So the phrase starseed has always been loosely peppered throughout the original series, because there have been a lot of quote unquote starseeds that became weirdos, you know, initially. So part of the kind of initially, when we were doing still at the 1 of 1 stage, a lot of the one of the hidden or like secretive aspects to things was this kind of extraterrestrial origin / influence, not origin, but I would say influence and kind of genetic manipulation, or I don't know what the right term would be, genetic interference between this extraterrestrial race and the weirdos. And the same thing had kind of happened with the state, but in a more evil fashion. So that's kind of like that whole idea is where a large core of the concept around, like, you know, the origins of how things got technologically advanced from where things stand, you know, where we are right now in the world, type of thing.
And the backgrounds to the starseeds have this sort of shape around them. Is that an aura of some description? Like, tell me about the sort of, is that some sort of vibrational force? I'm going off my like 5 minutes research here, but does that feel, what is that sort of shape around them?
Yeah, so I think also just to I kind of forgot to mention, in terms of, like, because you mentioned them having, you know, psychic powers and that type of thing. So the Men Who Stare at Goats was a reference, or, you know, a suggested film, and a film that I've always loved because of the real world, you know, occurrence of this group that the CIA had kind of created in the 70s or 60s. And that kind of like weaponization of esoteric powers, if I put it that way, I just like always found really fascinating. So the weirdos have kind of always alluded to the fact that they've got strong esoteric powers. So this is a group of like the strongest of the esoteric weirdos that are so strong they can, you know, bend things with their minds, they can set things on fire, they can you know, brainwash people with their minds, they can do all sorts of different things. And so to follow on from that, those are their auras that are surrounding them. So I think they might be the first NFT collection that features an aura.
Yeah, I've not seen it. I love it. Yeah, definitely brings a different vibe to the other factions as well, because I think it's. Am I right in saying it's the only sub faction that has like multiple coloured backgrounds effectively? Because the aura is part of. Well, maybe the aura is actually part of the character rather than the background, but it feels like an extra dimension which the others visually don't have. So they're really striking from that perspective. Yeah. We've got someone that wants to come up and chat to us on the stage, which is a bit of a first with Faction Stories. We've got Tom Scratch from the OGs group. So if I could just throw him up there for a quick chat with you, that'd be amazing. Hey, Tom.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hey. Loud and clear. How you doing?
What's going on?
Hey, Tom.
I can't hear you. Gone.
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Yeah.
Oh, no. I'm back in the room. Can you hear me?
He's back. Yeah, we've got you. You sound great.
Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Yeah, great work, team. First of all, amazing job setting out. Really good. Really excited for the drop. I suppose my question to Ghostbreath really is like, how long has this been in that mind of yours? Is this something that's new? I've been thinking about these weirdos for a long time.
I suppose like it's sort of yes and no. Like from the perspective of, I think when I was younger and more idealistic, and I used to sort of do graffiti. Well, not sort of. I used to do graffiti and was in the early stages of my art career. I kind of had the hopes of like making a South African version of The Simpsons, which was such a distant dream at that time. But obviously, like being 16 or whatever, you don't realize how hard that would be to achieve. So I think like then I kind of went through the world of like advertising, animation, motion graphics. So it kind of eventually just breaks your dreams and crushes your soul. And when I got introduced to the NFT world, it kind of started to open the possibilities again to me for, doing what I actually wanted to do rather than working for clients. So I mentioned I'd gotten back into the space in March, and it took until about May. I was doing like just one of one art, 3D animation. Like my pinned tweets essentially still hasn't changed from the kind of work that I was doing at that time. And then I just like kind of felt like it just hit me. I was also thinking a lot about doing a profile picture project, but it was pretty different. And then it just kind of hit me that I should do something like that represents weird people, but I didn't. The name Weirdos, it took me like probably about 3 weeks or something of going through about 15 different names until I came up with the Weirdos. So, but it was like a whole bunch of variations on that phrase, or like that the same idea, but just essentially a different group. So it's kind of always been with me, but like not at the same time, not really. It kind of reinvigorated by the NFT space, I would say.
I see. And so, but I know we're supposed to talk about the factions, but the OG Weirdos. What sort of came first? Is it do you draw it first, and then the description comes, or do you sort of like what's the sort of what was the process?
Yeah,
is it?
It's always I'd always draw them first, and then sometimes I would like have an idea for like a specific character or someone from real life. So they'll be loose, but the description won't be written. But I'll think, okay, cool. I need to do like like someone that is kind of acts like they're like a mafia member, or someone who's like pissed at 3 a.m. kind of. So I'll have like the idea, and then sometimes I'll also start drawing them. And when I draw it, it doesn't come out to what I was thinking. It turns into like a different kind of character. So then I'll like move that initial thought and do it again, and that the character that I had drawn will become, something else maybe. It's quite hard. Like it's very loose, I would say. You've got to. It's there's a lot of like just going with it.
Okay, cool. Back to factions, I suppose. My last question is: what is your personal favourite that out of the 14 factions?
I'll try. Jeez, I could take like such. It could be such a simple answer, but I would probably take forever to answer this. Like, I would probably say maybe Neuropunks, I think, but like it's very close with so many of the others, and I think like the both of the sets of droids, which we're talking about tonight, those have, after actually seeing how they work, have become some of my favorites because they're just like, it's hard to describe. There's so many variations or like
of course,
things that can happen with them because they're not bound by like needing to have clothing and match. So there's a lot more variation that you can create via kind of the generative process. So that's created some like just crazy results. So I'd say they're a close second.
What about you, Tom? Which was your favourite so far?
Oh, it's a tough one. I like the droids. I just love the droids. Love the sex. I mean, this is the beauty of it. I can't until I love all of them. I love all of them equally. I mean, I know I shouldn't say it, but until I see the collection, go through the collection, which I'm so hyped for. I know. Sorry, Snake people, but if there's, I might be converted if I see, if I see some weirdos there. So that's why I'm loving it so much, because until I see them all, and I'm going to spend a lot of time going through them, I won't actually know.
I think the mutants are going to win a lot of people over because they kind of function in a similar way to the droids in terms of how they get put together. But they like pretty crazy as well. Like they're probably the weirdest of the whole set.
Well, look, I just can't wait to look through them, honestly. Is there going to be like how you've got the OGs on the website? Are all the generatives going to feature on the website as well? Or is it just going to not that need to? Will that just be on OS?
I think we'll probably do that. I don't think it's too much of a thing.
So I might have just made a load of work for the team there. I hope not.
Yeah, me too. I also might have just been making someone swear in the background, but
Well, no, I mean, I'm happy. I can't wait. I just can't wait to see. I can't wait to see them. I really can't. You've done really well so far, guys. And happy to
thank
be
you. Thanks so much. You've also been around since Series 1, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got Ash. And,
oh yeah.
I thought Ash for quite a while was a man. Turns out, no, Ash is not a man.
I remember. I didn't ever correct you, but I wasn't. I still wasn't sure if you'd knew. But I mean, like,
he's got some boobs on her.
I mean, still, it's not like maybe he's just got like some extra weight over there.
Yeah, I can relate to that. Brilliant, cool. Well, that's me done, guys. Thanks for having me up.
Cool, thank you.
Thanks for that, Tom. Nice one. So we were were we wrapping up our conversation about starseeds, or was there anything we should be sharing with the world about their skills, their strengths, their beliefs, anything like that we want to enlighten the Weirdoverse with before we move on to the droids?
Let me think. I think you asked a couple questions. Let me think if there's. I don't know if there's anything I can think of like that. I would want to just volunteer.
Are they going to be any good in a fight? Are they going to be much more strategic in the way that they help the weirdos in this upcoming war?
Yeah, I think they're going to be they're good in a fight, but like a lot of people wouldn't believe that they would be good in a fight because a lot of people don't believe in esoteric things at all. So yeah, but I mean in this in this world they've got actual powers. So, but it's kind of also a mix of like the like laughing at that type of new age, like those movements and things, and those kinds of like people who I don't know, think that a lot of that type of thing is something that it's not. So yeah, I mean, like it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing, but in this specific instance, they, similar to the actual. I mean, I think you can still find out the name of the CIA's current version of the men who stare at goats, or whatever they were called back then. But it's still a thing that's used. There's a TED talk by one of the guys who was involved in the original group, and they would use something called remote viewing to find people that had been kidnapped and stuff in countries by spies. And that was like it's all recorded and stuff. And that TED talk is incredibly interesting. So I think like that kind of basis in reality versus, it being and seeming silly, is kind of like what I like about this idea, of a weaponized esoteric group.
I'm going to want the link to that TED talk as well. Definitely. I'm really into this. I could get into the backstory all day. That'd be great. We'll have to talk offline. Yeah,
it was actually banned, that TED talk.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, it's a good one. It's very, very good, actually. But it's worth listening to. I'll post a link to you and you can post it. We can post it in... We've still got the Conspiracy channel, don't we?
Yeah, the Weirdos Deep Web can still operate on the Conspiracy camp, isn't it?
Yeah, geez, we've got so many things now.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole consolidation of the Weirdoverse as we head into life after reveal. We'll tidy things up and we'll give people some spaces away from the main channels as well to get deep onto these sorts of topics. So
yeah.
So on the surface of things, the droids seem much more of a straightforward concept in that we've built robots ready for battle, but again, we've talked about this in other AMAs, and one of the things that really springs out, and particularly when you get into the metadata, which is a whole separate conversation for the reveal event, the depth and complexity of what you're doing in the droids is really interesting. You've got sub-factions within sub-factions here. Would you just care to explain how that all works for anyone who might be starting to feel a bit confused by that?
Yeah, okay, so if we think of them as the first group as factions, not sub-factions, so then the the droids only have sub-factions, so then it's easier. So the state's got factions, and one of those groups has got two sub-factions within it. In the Weirdos, there's also one group with two sub-factions, which is the Cat People. We'll go into the Cat People, or the Battle Cats, should I say, I think next time. Or
let's do it next time.
Okay, cool.
I've already been doing about 1,000 rows of metadata for them today, so yeah, I can certainly see where you're going with that one.
Right, okay, cool. Yeah, so I think like that's kind of as simple as it is. It's like the two main functions of state army and state sort of war facing people are kind of served by the droids. So a bunch of droids take the place of like actual fighters, and a bunch of them take the place of lovers, if we'll put it that way.
I was going to ask you what the what inspired the state to create an army of love bots, but I'm not sure everyone's ready for the answer.
Yeah, well, I think it's just a pretty simple answer, and I'll just say humans, just like humanity, and the world that we live in is more than enough inspiration. I think things go far darker and deeper than in reality than the love bots. So it's kind of like a light reflection on I think like a state driven means to kind of deal with their
needs. We're going to say needs
of the populace, though, like as a mass group, because they want efficiency, the state. So you could just kind of see it like that.
Yeah, very transactional in nature, I'm sure. So I don't think I'm revealing any state secrets if I say this is CryptoJack's favorite faction by some distance. So we've got Killbots and Lovebots. The sneak peeks are amazing on both of them, and I strongly recommend if you're new to us, go to the Sneak Peeks channel and check them both out. They're part of the same faction, but sub factions within that, as Ghostbreath just explained. Which one's your favorite, Jack? Have you settled on that yet?
I just like really both on the Killbots and the Lovebots. The ones that are coming out really clean. Especially on the Killbot side, look incredible. Other than that, I don't know what to call them. I love wondering what some of the attachments on the Lovebots, what purposes they serve. It really does make the mind boggle. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm not. Some of them are a bit close to the edge as well. I think. I don't want to spoil any surprises, but yeah, there's some real interesting accessories on the Lovebots that I can't wait for people to kind of think about, talk about, find humorous. I think it's going to be very, very amusing.
Yeah, I kind of find I'm at the precipice of a point. Like before Series 1, there was nothing like Dakari really, like somebody with his little peen out. And it was like kind of risky. I feel like I was like a team of one, and there was like 100 Twitter followers at that time. So it was kind of, and I'm feeling like that with some of the Lovebot attachments. So I'm definitely in a situation where I'm like, I could hear from Jack. I think like I don't think. Maybe I don't know. I'm always like worried that like it's been pushed too far. Like I might push things too far. But then I did also think like I think he's pronounced Joan Cornella, the More project that he released recently. At least I don't think anything is as rough as like a large majority of what he does. So that made me feel a lot better.
Hey, we've been around for nearly 8 months now, not been cancelled, so we must be doing something right, hey?
Yeah. And I think like part of the fun with the Lovebots is that they're not like, it's like if you actually just look at them, and I think like Jack says, like on the surface, it's kind of, it's not that obvious what is going on for a large part of the time. And I had to do research to figure out a lot of things, and I found out some of the things when I was doing that research was far more terrifying. Like I can't even mention, and the things that I can't even mention aren't even that crazy in the world of like doing this research. Apparently, or seemingly. So it was quite an eye-opening experience.
I like the I'm looking at them now and laughing to myself. Just the like the slightly bigger ones. I like, this kind of the thick love bots are just, I think people are going to love them. I really do. And the other thing I love about the love bots is, they're not gender specific. You can have a really buff. I'm looking at a really buff guy with a six-pack here with obviously a pair of boobs and some other stuff going on. It's just like, they're very, very versatile.
I'll tell you my favourite one, Ghostbreath. So Jack posted an announcement in our announcements channel of a killbot last night, but it's an upper torso, but it looks like it's propelled. It's so it can fly in essence. So you've got killbots that look like they're gonna walk and patrol, and then you've got some that are going to fly, which strikes me as a pretty deadly weapon if you're able to go anywhere and use guns and effectively be fully armored and ready for battle. So these must be the real elite of the front line of the state, right?
Yeah. So we haven't, like, I won't just keep swapping around to different factions, but there's I'll just say that in one of the weirdo factions, the same function exists. And yeah, it's like a kind of a drone leg, you might say. So it was probably like I feel like one of my proudest moments. I was so happy when I thought of it. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I'm not sure other people would feel the same, but like, I'm glad you liked it, because I was just so stoked with myself. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool.
And another thing that really stands out about it, we've obviously got a very limited color palette range, which is what makes the whole collection so striking. We use the same colors over and over again in lots of different ways, but this only uses 3. You've got the background of blue and then black and white to draw the character. So, really narrowing it down creates an even cleaner, ultimate PFP, really, the way I was looking at it. So I think Jack and I are going to be battling to get a clean killbot out of the collection, to be honest, at this point.
Yeah, actually, that's a good point, because it's actually it's a gray for the background, so it's incredibly minimalistic in terms of color, which is, to me, part of like it's a way of making the design, far more striking. So I think like there's a limit, especially when dealing with a generative collection, and especially, particularly when dealing with stuff that, or a collection that has thick line work, where if you have too many traits or too much going on, it can be quite visually confusing, especially when you zoom out. So yeah, I think like, to me, that simplicity is one of like my favorite things about them as well. Even from when they were introduced in Series 3, it kind of reminded me of that, I can't remember what it was called, like iRobot, I think, like the Will Smith movie.
Yeah, that's the one, yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think that's that question.
I'm willing to take questions again from the crowd. I'll go into the AMA questions channel. I'm going to pick one out, but I'm not going to address it today, because this is, as I said at the entry point to today's conversation, this is an art-based lore background story AMA with Ghostbreath, our artist and founder. We're going to talk project-wide conversations early next week. So we've had something in around from Psycho Zodiac, who's in the crowd, and not to pick you out, but just because we're coming back to this next week and into the post-reveal stage of the project. Now that we've sold out, what are the plans to expand the project, maintain a cohesive community that engages and grows, and what are the short, medium, and long-term target points leading up to and after reveal? So we're going to have wider project conversations after this. This is going to be very much focused on the origin stories, the generative process, the art, the whole sort of, I suppose, all the effort that goes into creating the collection and dwelling on the collection being the absolute critical part of this conversation today. So if you want to talk about the future, that's kind of where Monday comes around, and we start picking up more, momentum around why you're here and what's coming in the future. But again, we've been very circumspect around our reveal of those plans, and you'll probably see similar themes from us as we move forward. We've been very consistent on that. But if anyone has any specific faction questions, art questions, generative art questions, we're here for you for the next 5-10 minutes. Shaman says, is there plans to do a lot of Twitter spaces after reveal? Yes, there is. Yeah, we're going to do a live event of sorts on Saturday as we reveal. So we're going to go through the whole process explaining how the collection is randomized so that we can prove that it's a fair random distribution of the entire collection into each and every one of you, so that we're showing transparency through the process. We'll do that. We'll cover what we've received. We'll have another one hopefully after that as well to sort of talk to you about what you have received and how happy you are with your choices, whether you're in the right faction, whether you want to move around, and then we'll have a whole conversation with the community about the big picture the following week. Someone's just asked reveal time. If you go to the events in the Discord, Ryan, if you go into the top left corner of the channels, you can see the event listed in your local time, but for the global audience, it's at 1700 UTC, which is in the UK, that's 6 p.m. in the evening. But check, I don't know where you are in the world, but check your listings by going to events. You can see it in there, and then you'll have a link to what we're chatting through as well on the day. So we'll only do a quick 30-60 minute thing on the day. We'll follow up with more as we start getting into life fully revealed and getting into the bigger project conversations after that. Zal's asks, are all faction counts distributed equally? No, they're not. No, they're not. We're not going to get into the exact numbers today, but there's going to be elements that are rarer than others. I think that's really worth saying. We've had a lot of questions around rarity and how it's going to work, and we're going to get into all of that as we start revealing, but there is going to be rarity there. Some factions will be rarer than others. Some are going to be more abundant than others as a result. So yes, there are going to be certain aspects of this which we will, we're looking at it and considering them grail pieces. I think that's up to others to define as well, but certainly the way that we're looking at it is there's going to be traits which are less common or more rare, however you want to describe it, and we'll have some very rare pieces within that. We've not got one of ones. People have asked that lots of times as well. The one of one collection is our Genesis collections across series 1, 2, and 3, which have been out on OpenSea for several months in some cases. Do have a look at those separate collections. They sit outside of the Battle Royale collection on OpenSea, but if you type in the Weirdos Series 1, you'll see the original one of ones. You've got the merged collections across series 2 and 3 on a separate OpenSea collection as well. So you can see all of that, and if you go to Meet the Weirdos on the website, www.theweirdos.com, that's our full listing of Genesis OG Weirdos as well. Anything else? What's the rarest of the sub-factions? Yeah, not calling that out today. Sorry, Aginator, you're going to have to wait a little longer to get the rarest sub-faction. I'll tell you which one my favourite is, but that's not saying the same thing at all. I keep coming back to it. I think it's Neuropunks. I know you talked about it just very briefly then, Ghostbreath. It's very hard to choose, and I keep sort of flip-flopping on this, but I'm just so excited for what the Neuropunks have to offer. That I've only seen a very small handful of the outputs, but it looks like there's a huge amount of diversity there as well. I'm not going to get into the full Neuropunk story today because we'll cover that again, but must have been quite a challenging one to draw. It just feels like it's got quite a lot of imagination packed in there.
Yeah, I think I really love them because I just am a big fan of kind of the cyberpunk world. From essentially Philip K. Dick, I'm a fan of his books. And as I've talked about as well, Mobius, who inspired Fifth Element. So it's just always been something that has fascinated me since I was really young, since I first watched Blade Runner and Tron. So there was no ways I wasn't going to do a cyberpunk faction. And I was also really disappointed by the game Cyberpunk. I don't know how many people play games.
It's an ongoing disaster, isn't it? They've still not fixed it.
I literally played for about 3 days or something, and then I returned it. I don't think I've ever returned a game. I usually am just okay, cool, it's a write-off, I'll maybe play it here and there. But I returned it because I felt it was just the fact it was worse in terms of AI than Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. I watched like a comparative video
Wow.
in terms of how cars react if you're standing in the street in the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas world to compared to Cyberpunk, like where Cyberpunk everything was stuck on a track, and that's the kind of thing that they can't patch. It's just the fundamental building blocks of the game, or at least how I understood it, you know. So there was a lot of things like that where I feel like the real core of it was kind of like, you know, like it was not next gen in terms of like a console, or I mean, it was such a mess. They, you know, it was meant to be for PS4, then didn't work on PS4, so it was like a huge disappointment. So like I wanted to also just do Cyberpunks as like my homage to loving the Cyberpunk world. But yeah, I mean, even like saying it now, it's like they own that title when it wasn't really just referring to one thing in the past, you know.
Have you seen Altered Carbon on Netflix? It gives me that sort of, it's very Blade Runner vibes as well, but slightly more sci-fi on top of that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I thought it was good, but I haven't. I think there's so many shows like I'll start watching and I'll watch 3 or something episodes and then I'll fall asleep, and then the Netflix thing just keeps on playing it and like finishes the series, and then I don't go back to it sometimes. So I think I still need to watch some of the last episodes of that, but that was also really good. It's hard to find. I find like these days, they're not that great. Like the new Blade Runner, I didn't really enjoy at all. Like I thought it was pretty bad compared to the original. You know, well, you know, it sounds like you know, a regular kind of fanboy type game geek saying that type of thing. But
Yeah. As Al said, it's actually been discontinued by Netflix. So yeah, you've got plenty of time to catch up and get up to speed by the sounds of it. I've got maybe 3 or 4 questions here, but we've got about 5 minutes to go before we wrap up for the session. So these are rapid fire questions, and we'll try and get the quickest possible answers out of Ghostbreath as we rattle through the final things. So who leads the weirdos and who governs the state, says Psycho Zodiac?
Okay, well, I'm going to keep the answers as short as possible. The only current known weirdo leader is the Supreme Overlord. Excuse me. And that's not to say there aren't people above the Supreme Overlord, which there are, but yeah, he's the only, and he's not even revealed because he's wearing a mask. So nobody actually knows who he is except his alter ego, Mr. Xeon.
Yeah, he's Scottish, isn't he? Yeah, we've doxed him already.
Yeah, he is Scottish.
No, that's Mr. Xeon from our core team, who is the lucky owner of the Supreme Overlord from way back when, and the leader of the state.
The leader of the state is Gadley.
Wow.
Yeah, he's also the only known face of the state, but the state members don't know him. The state members think that what's his name? I've forgotten his name. Like the only guy who's looking forward. Father, isn't his name Father something?
Isn't it?
He's like the big brother type figure.
Ooh. Someone drop it in the lodge, the guy facing forward.
I'm trying to find him.
Thanos.
Yeah, isn't it?
What?
Tano owns
Thanos
no.
PFP.
Miss Lord
Oh.
Ford.
Lord
Yeah,
Ford,
sorry.
isn't it?
So Lord Ford is yeah, that's it. He's the leader of the state in terms of like what the state members think, you know. He's the face of the state.
Got it. Let's keep moving. David asks, will we see some pro rugby players in the Prem repping weirdos? I think that might be specifically addressed to me and my background, but I doubt it, David. I'm not sure if Premiership Rugby is ready for the weirdos and nudity and potential, misfit status as PFPs to work with a family audience. Prem Rugby is very family branded, and we're very much an adult themed nostalgic NFT series. So I'd be surprised if there's many Prem Rugby players rocking this, but there's far bigger audiences out there to go after. So don't despair. Much as I love rugby, it's a very, very small sliver of society in the UK. Anyway, what else have we got? Will there be any? Where did I see any special rare background traits? Well, we talked about the Starseeds just now having a slightly different, I suppose, aura, which you could construe as a background. But otherwise, we're keeping things relatively simple in the backgrounds, aren't we? So that the focus is on the clones themselves.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I think the only that wouldn't be considered backgrounds. Would be kind of weapons that people have attached to their backs, which would be pretty uncommon. But as far as the backgrounds go, it goes back to the kind of the simplicity aspect. The original design of the Weirdos, I never messed with, well, I don't want to use the word messed with, but like incorporated things into the background because when it's very important that, well, to me, it's very important that when the profile picture, I mean, it's the main use of, NFTs being profile pictures, is that they're readable or as readable as possible when small. So the more things you add to them, essentially, the kind of the less visually striking they are. So it might be a cool way to add in extra rarity that a project with like simpler, actual like the token designs might be somewhat simpler, so it would make sense to add more kind of variation into the background, or there might be less variation in maybe this, for example, the silhouette of the tokens. So yeah,
from what I've seen, we won't be struggling for rarity across the collection, and it will be increasingly obvious what is rare from what we're looking at ourselves. So you won't need to necessarily signify that via a background. So I'm not concerned about that from a establishing rarity perspective. And I, fully, I'm going to, of course, I work on the team, but I fully support that clean attitude towards keeping the attention on the character and using it in a striking way as a PFP for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I think like rarity, because we've built this collection in a very different way. 14 factions being the main core of that difference, and then the differences within the factions themselves, keeping them as varied as possible as well. It kind of creates a different set of rarity tools, or I don't know if tools is the right word, but rarity traits. And I think some of those things, like some things might be physically rare, but might be even less desirable than something that's more common, but just people like. And like I've seen this with the original collection, where there's stuff I wasn't expecting people to like, and it became favorite characters, or so I think it's something that we want to play into is the rarity of I suppose just cool things.
Cool, sure. One final thing then. So Shem in the AMA chat asks, if we want to swap for certain factions, will there be escrow from the team maybe? So almost like the team facilitating marketplace trades. And the short answer is no, there won't be. We are going to have a marketplace channel in the Discord post-reveal, but we are going to strongly recommend that you do not participate in peer-to-peer trading. I think the number of examples I've seen recently of people being scammed, having counterparty risk, having wallets drained, having been taken to what feel like familiar swap sites like SudoSwap, etc., and using them and being scammed is so high relative to the potential benefit of trading in that manner that as a project team, we simply could not recommend it in all good consciousness. And we will be making sure that comes across loud and clear from us, that you should use trusted platforms. If Web3 is meant to be trustless, but ultimately we all end up working on centralized exchanges to trade with one another. But they have proven to be by far the most effective methods of buying and selling across a collection for good reason. So we won't be encouraging peer-to-peer, and we won't be facilitating peer-to-peer. There's so many things that could go wrong with that. I simply cannot envision a world where that would add value to a collection at all, and we won't be going down that road. So we're going to make that really clear as we head forwards as well. Please use mainstream trusted marketplaces and trade safely. I know there'll be a lot of aspirations to trade into certain factions. We do understand we've created a collection that's going to get people leaning in a direction of choosing one over the other. But please trade safely.
Yeah, I mean, I think there'll definitely be preferences as well, but I think I find it hard to choose which is my favorite faction. I think part of what I've been trying to do for months is, take a group that might seemingly not be that interesting from the outset and make it as cool as possible. So, I've worked really hard to make each faction have their own things that do make them sort of fun and cool and funny. So, yeah, I mean, it might not be everybody's preference which faction you get, but I think, it's hopefully not too much of a letdown if you don't get the one that you're looking to get.
It's going to be very hard to be disappointed. I'm very, very excited to get my hands on mine, and I think you will be as well, having seen what I've seen. So big thank you to you, Ghostbreath. Thanks for doing that. We'll do it again soon. We are churning through the factions and the origin stories now at some rate, and we've got a big reveal on Saturday in almost exactly 48 hours time. So bring that on. We'll do an event for that. We'll explain what we're doing and why it's all fair and random, and then we'll release the clones into the world, and then hopefully we'll get into the next stages of the project and get very excited about where everything's heading after that. So thank you very much, CryptoJack. Thank you very much, Ghostbreath. It's goodbye from me, and we will see you all again very soon.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.